a little chilly right now, but it's gonna warm up. Gotta get my feet wet. Then you know you're fishing, right?
We've been giving Andrew a few nicknames lately. The Ginge, Clutch, and my favorite, Captain Redbeard. On this curious hunter adventure, we set out to a local lake to meet up with our friend Dagur, an Iceland-born fly fisher who spends most of the year guiding out here on the Central Coast before returning to his homeland for a few months each fall to do the same.
I was re-editing some of those clips from the podcast. I was making like shorter versions of them.
Yeah.
I just love that part where Tim's like, so you love catching carp, and you're just like, yeah. I love carp.
It's not more complicated.
He sure does love carp, and that's an understatement. If you follow him on social media, you know exactly what I mean. This guy is obsessed. We had him on our podcast a while back, and he cracked open my world to the wild, misunderstood beauty of carp fishing. Lucky for me, the carp king himself took me out on my very first fly fishing expedition.
So like when you're making your cast, like you're fishing, you'll pull it in, and then, you know, I go for the cast again. I already have this ready to load up. But just pull it in so you got the brown line in your hand to start with. If you look behind you when you're casting, it'll help too, because you want to see that loop unfurled before you move forward.
Kind of like that?
And like that. A little bit slow. There you go. Look behind you, see the loop, and we'll go forward. Cool. There you go. The most important thing with the carp, just move slow. So when you're walking, just watch your step. Like if I'm here and I step on a piece of branch and break it, a carp on the shoreline is going to spook. The fishing just comes in at the end of the hunt. And you kind of get used to where the weight is on the line.
Yeah.
And every line has kind of a different profile. What you can do is you either like buy the store-bought leader where it tapers down from the fly line, or you tie it together, which is kind of how I'm finishing this off, because you got like half a liter. So you got the tapered section here, go then 10 pound, and then we'll go into 8 pound.
Gotcha.
So it just gradually makes it lighter and lighter. So it's not the abrupt change. I'm doing yours a little shorter, just so it's easier to manage. This is all to support dentists. Just gonna put a little leech on. It'll work for the carp and the catfish and the bass and everything. It's a leech.
And as you'll see, this film is a little different. You might actually learn a thing or two. I sure did. Not just from Dagur, but from his friend who joined us for an afternoon on the lake. I had a blast stepping into something new again, feeling that familiar rush of curiosity that always comes with the outdoors.
These are just kind of generalist imitations. Here's like dragonfly names, damselfly names. This is kind of bright and happy. And there's kind of more scuds, leeches, damselflies, all that kind of stuff. That's mostly with the carp breeding, and these are just kind of for bass and catfish.
Dagur and I hopped in his canoe. Captain Redbeard, on the other hand, decided to brave the open water on his stand-up paddleboard. We made our way up the lake at a slow, deliberate pace. It was beautiful out there. Lately, it seems like every couple months, I stumble into a new pocket of the Central Coast, a fresh stretch of land or water to explore, waiting just beyond the edges of familiarity. I think if more of us took a closer look at the places around us, we'd be surprised by the sheer amount of opportunity we have to get outside and reconnect. Dagur helped us rig up, pointing out subtle signs of carp in the water, the kind of details you don't notice until you know what to look for. He wasn't kidding when he said fly fishing for carp is a lot like spot and stock hunting. It's methodical, intentional.
They were like kind of hanging out just outside the coves, and then as it started warming up, they started moving in. But yeah, I didn't see anything. I didn't really see anything the whole walk up there.
I saw 2 in here, just in this inside cut. You either walk or just take the.
Were they just cruising? Or?
No, there 2 of them were feeding.
They're feeding.
It's just a different way of seeing it too. Like you look at the lake and it looks like huge, and then like when you're sight fishing, you're limited to basically your 50 feet in front of you or something.
Yeah.
So you like break it down there. It makes it pretty exciting. John, I'm gonna have you jump in here, do the same thing. You see this kind of darker bottom here? So just work this kind of to the right. I'm gonna walk in here, see if I spot any carp. Keep fishing this for the catfish and just change up the speed. See, now I was having you go kind of slow. Do like every other cast, go fast, and then slow down, and then go fast. And if you hook a fish on one thing, do that more.
It didn't take long for Dagur to spot a good-sized carp and work his fly with the finesse of someone who's done this 1,000 times.
So most of the time they spawn in the springtime, but like good water years, like the past 2 years, they'll spawn again in the fall. Pretty cool fish. Ready?
And there was Andrew again, the Ginge, cruising along beside us, documenting every moment as we drifted to the next spot.
Just gonna work your way to the right.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna walk a little, see if I can spot some carp in there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sweet. This might be the most meditative thing I've done in the outdoors. Eventually, I found my rhythm, whipping back the line and letting it sail, feeling the satisfying weight of it as it stretched out over the water. If you had a chance to listen to the podcast episode we did with Drew Wilson, fly fisher, tattoo artist, and skateboarder, you probably heard him talk about how skateboarding and fly fishing are more alike than you'd think. You start to see the world differently. A lake or a pond becomes a canvas, the way a stair set or a handrail does to a skateboarder. Every element holds an opportunity if you know how to approach it. Not long after he landed his first carp of the day, Dagur pulled in another. Every fish I've caught before this trip was for eating. So watching these giants slip back into the water was new for me. But there was something deeply satisfying about it.
Get your fly ready, I'm gonna throw him right into it now.
About the way fly fishing lets you connect with the species without taking too much from its world. A lot of people think fly fishing belongs to cold rivers and remote mountain streams. But guys like Dagur prove otherwise. Just like in skateboarding, the whole point is to push past assumptions, to show that there's always a new approach to something, a new spot, a new trick, a new style that turns sport into art. On our way back to the cars, Dagur and I took in the sights. Being on the water is my favorite way to enjoy nature. For a brief moment, it feels like you're flying through the air. As perfect as that day was, I had to come back a few months later to fully immerse myself in how Dagur approaches this craft, watching as he moved like a ghost through the shallows. Silent, deliberate. As he spotted some carp, he crept within just a few feet and placed his fly with precision, teasing the surface just enough to tempt them. Even he doesn't land every fish. Proof that all those hunting and fishing films that glorify the catch don't tell the whole story. But when he did hook one, not even a sunken barbed wire fence could stop him. Someday, I hope we can take this further, leave the Central Coast behind for a bit. Maybe head to Iceland with Dagur and chase some fish in waters that feel ancient and wild. Because there's always another horizon to explore. And in many ways, this curious journey I've been on for the past few years feels like it's only just beginning.